Like a Moth to a Flame by FiveNightsAtBarrys. Chapter 3. It was 11 p.m. in Gotham City. Tim Drake sat in his nest, watching the screens play out in front of him. It didn't make sense. Only a month ago, Tim had destroyed every league base, and now they seemed to be back on their feet. Ninja after ninja, diligently, confidently doing their jobs as if Tim hadn't killed their peers just the other day. Tim certainly wasn't an optimist. He knew Roz wouldn't stay down long, but to be this successful this quickly, something was up. Something had changed with Roz. On the screen, ninjas were shown stealing various different creatures, cats, rats, birds, and even raiding graves at some point. What were they planning? These bodies ranged from flesh to 50 years old. As Tim would guess, what were their purpose? Whatever it was, Tim knew it wouldn't be good for race to suddenly get a new idea. People would probably die. Most of the heist occurred in the United States, but beyond that, there was no pattern. Tim assumed it was to do with Roz's reach and connections, but to assume that this industry could be detrimental. So Tim kept his mind open. Then he watched. He watched Ray's army take zoo animals. He watched the grave of one of Nancy's Saltwall be ransacked, and finally, it all paid off. Travis Marble, owner of Marble & Co., had a job. His brother was getting a bit too nosy about the company's tax receipts, and he needed him dealt with. The man managed to contact the League of Assassins. Clicking off the cameras, Tim finished suiting up. It didn't take long for him to be out in Gotham, swinging through the night sky. Luckily, thing that his brother was insistent on working in the Gotham office. Something about showing that Gotham wasn't inherently dangerous and the people should be given a chance. In a way, using Gotham office saved him because now Tim was there to save him, and he wouldn't accept failure. He watched the night sky, echoed the sounds of crickets as he waited outside the building. The brother was just checking out for the night. Soon, the approaching vehicle waiting for him, briefcase in hand, hair professionally tucked behind his ear. No sign of anyone. Tim followed them silently. Blue and yellow blurs went past his head, but he kept focus. This was his only shot until Roz discovered he was catching on. Eventually, a woman in black appeared, trailing the car. A bit further ahead of Tim was. She couldn't see him. Perfect. As the car approached particularly sharp turn, she aimed her throwing knives. In a second, Tim rammed into her, flying fast on his wire. The brawl that followed was all instinct. The pair was fast on their feet, like feathers flying through the air. Neither left any mark of their presence. Any onlooker would find it extraordinary feat, but for Tim, it was an average Saturday. The ninja went down, twitching and shivering from the urge to continue fighting. Alas, her injuries were too much, and Tim dragged her to a secluded alley. "What is Roz doing?" Tim demanded. She spat out bloody tooth directly in his face. "I'll ask once more." He slammed her back into the brick wall, not giving himself a second to rethink his actions. "What does Roz want with all the animals? What about the corpses? What is he planning?" She laughed at him. Tim used to be a good man, Well, boy, but recent events had been really testing his patience and his morals. If this ninja wanted to be at the receiving end of this, who was he to deny her? Deep and piercing, his tone left no room for misinterpretation. I've already killed the likes of you. Do you really think I won't do it again? Roz can't know I'm here, so you're never getting back to him. And if you want to make it into a prison cell and not a grave, I would suggest talking. What is Roz planning? The woman's voice was monotone, her face blank, but Tim could hear her undying fear. He's got some new toy I don't know much about, okay? Something about the fire of life. Roz is fascinated by him, keeps telling us to get these things for him, but I don't know why, okay? I don't know why. She got more insistent the more she talked. Tim felt pity for her. He told himself that he wouldn't actually kill her. He would never become the kind of person to do that. But he already had. Never again, he told himself. But it would have been so easy. Instead, Tim spent an extra hour hauling her to the nearest police station with the express instructions to keep her locked up for as long as possible. If word got to Roz, his operation would get sneakier. Already he had limited time before Roz had an inkling of suspicion that a bat may have been behind the ninja's disappearance. He needed to move fast. And he did. Over the next 3 days, Tim stalked every known Lazarus Pit location. Many were unusually unguarded, almost abandoned. Whatever Raish had, he was confident in. Confident enough to focus all his efforts on it. The last location, Infinity Island. Tim couldn't approach on a whim. If he was sneaking onto the island, he needed good reason. And so, Tim hesitated. He never told anyone. This was nobody's business but his own. The fire of life Roz had to have been experimenting with, the Lazarus pits. If he came out of this stronger, Tim would never forgive himself. In the end, it didn't matter, since when did fate decide to give him a helping hand? As he watched the island from afar, Bruce's drones coming in handy, a jet rose from the ashes. Something flaming and green shone out from the one window. It came and went in increments, and Tim's eyes drawn to it. At second glance, Tim spied a green robe that belonged to one possible man. Was Roz making deals with Lazarus Water? The flight could be mistaken for your average billionaire showing off their noisy private jet. Nobody paid any mind as it crossed over the United States. Tim's drones followed it to New York through rain and smog. By the time the plane landed, he had already suited up and sped off on his bike. New Jersey to New York, that's all he had to do, and then he can rest. Everything accumulated at the Pitch Hotel, a 5-star hotel, and one Tim had stayed in before. No time had been wasted on learning the floor plan. A swipe of a card, a smile at the secretary, and Tim was stationed in his own room, watching the cameras. The drive had been disorienting, but there was no time to consider that. Roz was a cockroach. You can't give him even a second to get back on his feet. He really was the most annoying tumor that just kept growing back with dropping eyes or blurry vision. Tim will keep fighting. Soon became evident that he was getting distracted by his effort to focus, so distracted that he didn't feel nauseous creeping up on him. Shit, he needed some aspirin or something. Down the hall to the left, some stairs, and in a room on the right. Janitor left his trolley, and it just so happened to have brought some painkillers to work. Maybe his luck really had changed. Roz was nowhere to be seen, and if Tim was going to go, it had to be now. Staggering like he'd run 10 marathons, he moved to his target. In the future, he'll need to assess how to overcome the tunnel vision that comes with exhaustion, especially because he crashed into someone. A grunt came from the other person. Shit, Tim whispered to himself, not yet processing what had happened. Are you okay? You don't look good, man. Voices were speaking at him. Just, shh. He wiped his eyes with one hand and waved the other around in front of him until it hit something. Whoa, what the hell? Seriously, are you okay? I need to get to the aspirin. The janitor. The janitor or the aspirin? Both. No. Listen. He finally opened his eyes again. The world was sideways. The person he had bumped into blended into the background. He continued, I'm just going to go back to my room. Are you sure? Tim didn't answer. He turned around and walked like a zombie in whatever direction he was going. Yeah, you're about to walk into a wall. The guy sounded like he was smiling. I know loads of people who refuse to sleep. I've seen this enough. Come on, room 105. He couldn't muster a single nod before his head tipped down weakly. Tim was basically being dragged the whole way back. Clearly, this wasn't the guy's first time dragging someone to bed. This wasn't Tim's first rodeo either. He knew sleep deprivation. It didn't take long for his nap to end and his brain to function to return, even if it was just enough to assess the situation. The guy was in a room with him. It was 11 p.m. He couldn't see the cameras, but presumably they've turned off because the guy was not said anything. If he could play this part well enough, the guy will leave him and he can finally get the aspirin. One chance. A quick minute, and then he'll get the man out. Deep breath in, and Tim was squinting at the light of the lamp. Hey, he put on his most normal smile. Sorry about this. I really needed that nap. The boy had expensive clothes on. Tim would know. It was your typical expensive for name brand, but expensive because it was good quality. Tim looked for the signs of something dangerous, something magical, something off-putting, but the guy seemed normal. Someone who just so happened to be there. At least that was somewhat comforting. Nah, it's fine. I'm a veteran at this shit. I do it to myself all the time. He smiled. His eyes went up with his lips, as long eyelashes entangled. Signs of sincerity. The vigilante let out a professional laugh. Yeah, happens too often for me. Well, I really am sorry to put you through that. He got up to lead the guy to the door, but something made him pause. The cameras were still on, several screens showing intimate parts of the hotel. Customers, private rooms, just on display in front of them both. Yeah, the guy turned to him, hands on his hips. That's a bit weird. Must admit, we've all got our hobbies, but seriously, what? Like, what? Why didn't you leave after seeing the cameras? Tim prepared himself to move, run, or fight. Whatever was needed. It's very weird. I was thinking about it, really. I mean, you've even got my room on there. What are you doing with this? Because the boy teased similarly. His room. That room he pointed at wasn't his. It was Race checked into that room 5 hours ago. He booked it for a week. I'm looking for someone, Tim admitted. Someone dangerous. A killer. In the hotel? The boy stepped back. Yeah, graying hair, pretentious attitude, has green vibe about him. See him? The boy considered something. Maybe? He's a dangerous man. It wouldn't do you any good to get involved with someone like him. He tried to figure out this guy's deal. He didn't seem the type to join the League of Assassins, but looks can be deceiving. Why? What has he done? His assassins network are responsible for so many deaths. In his own right, he has a massive kill count. Tried to end the world several times. Huh. Like, actually? Yes. Who the hell was this guy? Tim stared incredulously at him. I didn't know that, he spoke quietly. I thought they worked undercover, helped mediate conflict. No, they don't, Tim said curtly. The boy fiddled with his hands. Who are you then? Why are you going after him? I've been there. I've seen firsthand how he mangles people, destroys lives. I know people who've escaped him. Trust me, he needs to be stopped. I need to stop him. The boy lifted his hand. I'm Leo. Tim was taken aback, but accepted the handshake. Hi, I'm Tim. I think I need some help, because that guy you're talking about, I live with him. Reader's notes. I definitely felt myself screaming into the microphone, but I'm trying to do this as quickly as possible so I can get on to the next chapter, and I am going to be splitting that up into 2 parts. Love y'all. Thanks for reading. Go drink water. Go sleep if you have to. If the next chapter's out, I suggest listening to it. If it's not, please read and leave kudos.